my screen, just the slides?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
great, great. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. I know you guys can be doing a lot of things. It's the evening time and you want to cook or you want to do something else, but this is just as important as everything else, right? And that's why you're here tonight. This is about finding grants, and one of our partners, GrantStation, is here to share with us. I'm going to introduce myself. There are a few of you I have not met. My name is Aretha Simons. I'm the president and founder of Multiplying Talents, which is a part of, I'm going to mute you. I got you. Would you do me a favor? Go ahead and mute yourself. That was going to be my next thing. I'm president of Multiplying Talents and Grant Writing School. And I want to show you how you can engage tonight. So everybody go ahead and mute yourself, because sometimes we don't know we're unmuted. Make sure you are muted so that we can have a quality of the recording and that you can get the best out of this. If you have a question, go ahead and type it in the chat room at the end. They're going to ask you. You can do the option, raise your hand option, or you can just wave, because some people are on their phone and they can't reach the raise your hand option. So feel free to do that. And I'm excited to have GrantStation come with us today. Kevin Peters is here and David Gates is here to share about GrantStation and how you can find grants. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn it over to Kevin and David. Thank you so much for being here.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. It's great to be here. Yes, as Aretha said, my name is David Gates. I am part of GrantStation's online education team. I live a little bit north of Seattle, but currently I'm just outside of San Diego. And here with me also today is Kevin Peters. He is based in Oregon and is the VP of Research here at GrantStation. So he really knows all the ins and outs of our databases. And Kevin will be interacting with you in the chat. So during this tour, if you'd like clarification on something, you can type it into the chat box below and Kevin will help get you an answer. Otherwise, we'll have time for questions at the end of the session as well. So you can hold off on those two if you'd like. So here's just a quick agenda of what we're going to do. First, I'll give you a brief overview of GrantStation and the website. Next, we'll look at starting a project. Afterwards, we'll find the perfect funder using our database. Then we'll look at a couple of additional tools that you might find useful. And of course, I'll take some time to answer your questions at the end. All right, so I'm going to pull up GrantStation now for you. You should be able to see that. I'm going to stop my video so you can focus on, minimize that, and you can focus on the website. So GrantStation features a set of searchable databases filled with current grant opportunities. We provide tools and tutorials on grant seeking and writing, and we keep you up to date on the latest philanthropic trends. All of the grantmaker profiles on GrantStation, both government and private, are actively accepting requests or letters of inquiry from a variety of organizations. Now, you may have used other services where you do your research, you get hundreds of returns, and this leaves you with a long list of potential funders to screen without knowing how relevant they are to your specific needs, or if you can or even should apply to them. Our job here at GrantStation is to pre-screen grant makers, so the time you spend researching generates a list of grant makers that may truly accept a request to fund your organization's program or project. So you can think of us as your backroom research team, pre-screening funders, so we are feeding you the most relevant ones for your program or project. Again, everything you find on GrantStation is open for requests or letters of inquiry. So now let's dive into the website. From any page, you can use the menu on top to navigate to various sections of our website. So first, we're going to look at our Public Resources tab. In our Public Resources tab, you'll see information about the 3 newsletters that GrantStation publishes. These newsletters highlight upcoming funding opportunities. And for most of you, the most relevant newsletter will be the GrantStation Insider. And this is a weekly newsletter that features 10 distinct opportunities for US-based nonprofit organizations. Additionally, we have the monthly Insider and the monthly Canadian Insider for our friends up north. And near the top of the page are links to the key areas you receive full access to as a member of GrantStation. They are find grant makers, build strategy, and write proposals. When you click Find Grant Makers, it will open the search section where all of our databases are located. When you click Build Strategy, it provides a section, a complete walkthrough of articles that will help you build a solid grant seeking strategy, including an interactive tool that we'll discuss a little bit later that will visually lay out where your funding needs to come from. And when you click Write Proposals, you will find step-by-step tutorials you can use to prepare everything you need. How to write compelling letters of inquiry, a complete breakdown of all the parts contained within a full grant proposal, and you can even view successful grant proposals so you can see what is currently working. And finally, you can visit the online education section along the top. So we offer a lot of webinars and trainings here at GrantStation. So upcoming, we have a free webinar on July 12th, which is about nonprofits and smart tech. We have another paid webinar about social entrepreneurship on July 13th. And our webinars are open to the public and do not require a GrantStation membership. Access to the webinars is not included in your GrantStation membership, but they are available within an affordable cost range for both individuals or groups. And our presenters are all extremely bright minds in the field of grant writing, grant strategy, fundraising, and nonprofit management. So if you're looking to further develop any of these skills, I highly recommend seeing what's on offer. Now, an important part of your membership, and one we are going to talk about a lot today, is your custom dashboard. So on the top, if you click on My Dashboard, I'll click on Introduction. So I'll give you a quick overview of what is here, but as I said, throughout the tour, we're going to come back to the dashboard and look at its features in detail. So in the dashboard, you can see it has a report section, a project section, saved criteria, saved grant makers, your plan, your profile, as well as any orders you've done in the past. And your dashboard is a great place to begin when starting a project. So we're going to go through two projects today to help you get a better understanding of GrantStation's capabilities. So I'm going to click on the Project tab to get started. For our first project, let's imagine you're a community orchestra located north of San Francisco in Marin County, California. You offer music education programs in the schools, after-school chorus and band activities, and a summer music camp for underserved youth. Now, the symphony is looking for $80,000 in new funds so they can establish an instruments library where underserved youth can check out instruments for long-term use. In addition, the librarian will also offer classes that will be incorporated into the music education program and the summer music camp on building your own instruments. So one of the first steps we recommend to help you really organize your approach, flesh out your budget, and serve as a solid foundation for your grant seeking strategy is to complete a project description worksheet. And I can do that by first clicking Add a New Project. So then I would add in the description or the title for my project. I would add in the high level explanation, maybe my statement of need, the budget summary, my geographic scope, the focus. And then at the bottom, we get here to our search terms. And this is an important area to think about because we think about our areas of interest, our target populations, and our types of support. So what I'm going to do here is click on search terms to review the search terms that are listed on GrantStation. And we encourage our members to really familiarize themselves with our search terms, as it will help you discover potential funding sources once you begin looking for funders, and it's going to make the entire process a lot smoother. And just to note, you can access the search terms through your dashboard like I just did, or you can do it a little bit easier by clicking on Find Grant Makers, search terms. So our search terms contain descriptions of the key terminology used on our website, and it's the same terminology used by grant makers themselves, and it serves as a great guide when doing your keyword research. To use this area, simply enter in a keyword to see which categories you're going to want to check out when you are searching for funders. Then you'll save this on your project description worksheet, so you're on the same page as the grant maker. So let's find the right search term for our instruments library. As we're an orchestra trying to build this instrument library, maybe on the right, I'll enter in the search term orchestra. Boom. And then as we see, there are no results. And that's likely because it's just too specific of a search term. There are no grant makers who are specifically funding orchestras. So let's try a slightly more general term, music, and see what pops up. Now, you can see here, we get some good results. Under arts, cultures, and humanities, I have music, and the topics includes, but is not limited to, would be educational programs. So that's probably a pretty good fit for our needs. But maybe since this program focuses on underserved youth, maybe I can type that into the keyword as well. So I'll type underserved youth, click apply, and then I see under social services and issues, we have at-risk youth. And the topics here is underserved youth. So that's a good secondary search term for me as well. And now that I've found the right search terms, I'm going to navigate back to my project description worksheet. So I'll click my dashboard, projects, and then under my instrument library, I'll click edit, go down to my search terms, and I would add these here. So we have social services and issues, at-risk youth, art, cultures, and humanities, and music. Great. So now we have successfully begun our project. We've completed our project description worksheet. We found some good search terms. Now it is time to find the perfect funder. So we'll begin our primary research by looking at government funding opportunities, and I'll explain a bit or why in a moment. So let's start with our US government section. So I'm going to click Find Grant Makers, US State Government. Now, GrantStation offers access to listings of state-funded agencies and state departments for each of the 50 states and the District of Columbia that offer financial and technical assistance programs. So in this situation, I'm going to click on my state. This is California. Now, on the left, we have a list of general resources. One way you might use these resources is, for example, when writing your needs statement, it's often great to look at demographic information. And you could find that here under maybe population and census data. On the right, you'll notice a key that shows the different types of support. We have contracts, grants, information, loans, as well as miscellaneous support or training or technical assistance. Then you can look down at the list and see what is available in each one of those main categories. For example, for our project, we might look under arts, culture, and humanities, and we see that the Arts Council in California offers grants. So we'd certainly want to investigate this option. We strongly encourage you to look at all potential sources beyond just grants at the state level, because sometimes there are some hidden gems. And if you see something that is available and that is relevant to your organization or project, then you can just follow the link for more information. But if not, you can move on to the next step in our primary research, which is discovering what is available from the US government in our US federal section. So I'll scroll up, click Find Grant Makers, click on US Federal. Now, the information in our US federal section comes directly from grants.gov. And you can search through this area using eligible applicants, areas of interest, funding agencies, along with keywords and CFDA numbers. So for example, if I start with eligible applicants and search for nonprofits that have a 501c3 status, I see all of the opportunities available from the federal government. But of course, I could narrow this down a little bit further. Maybe I would add in an area of interest, check arts, and then I see that are about 13 results from the federal government that focus on the arts. Now, federal grants can certainly feel overwhelming, but we do also offer articles and webinars that deal with how to apply for these types of grants. But a really important reason why you should begin your research with US state and federal government sections is because when you apply to private funders, you can say that you have looked into federal and state opportunities. And in case you don't find any options, you can say, at this time, there are no federal programs that can help us with our needs. That way, the private funder knows that you have done your homework, which speaks to your credibility, and that private funding is the only option available now. So once you've completed your state and federal research, you can now move on to the US Charitable Database. So I'll click on Find Grant Makers and click on US Charitable. Now, GrantStation's charitable giving database lists thousands of funder profiles, including independent, family, community, and corporate foundations, corporate giving programs, faith-based grant makers, and associations with grant-making programs. In the content area on the left, you will find a guide to help you through the search process. And on the right is the navigation area where you can enter your criteria. And these profiles are searchable by geographic scope, areas of interest, and types of support, as well as by name and by keywords. So now let's do a search for our instrument library. So we should begin with our geographic scope. When thinking about your geographic scope, you can search for global grant makers giving to US organizations. You can search for national grant makers who give across the country, or you can choose a specific state to see grant makers who give in that specific region. So for now, since our project was north of San Francisco, let's click on California as our geographic scope. But then I'm also going to add in national grant makers who give across all states. So as each criteria is added or subtracted, it's going to broaden or narrow the funding opportunities being displayed. This initial process of choosing our geographic scope allows us to cast our search net as wide as possible, combining national opportunities with state-based ones to really see just how many funders will be able to support our needs. But once we start selecting other criteria, our results will begin to narrow to funding opportunities that are a perfect fit for our needs. So now that we have our geographic area selected, we are ready to select our areas of interests. So here we're going to use our earlier search terms. So I am going to click under arts, cultures, and humanities, and I'll click music. So here we see 125 results. That's probably too many results to effectively research. So I'm going to want to narrow it down a little bit more. Now, one thing I could do is select that second search term that I found before. So if I click here and social services and issues, and I click at-risk youth, now I only see 7 results. So when I select both of these terms, it's going to show donors who give to both music and at-risk youth organizations, not music or at-risk youth programs. So the results we get here could be great fit as we're going to fulfill 2 areas of funding for these grant makers, but we may not need to be that specific. So for today, let's back up and just focus on music. So I can get rid of at-risk youth by clicking that minus sign there. But once again, I do want to narrow this down from our 125 results. So maybe I'll choose a target population. So we're working with children or youth. So I'm going to click that. Now we're down to 51 results. And that's probably still a bit too many, but it may be possible as you could eliminate quite a few by looking at the geographic scope and the geographic focus. But since I'm trying to find the perfect funder, I'm going to add in that type of support. So I'll go down. And since we're looking for an instrument library, we're looking for equipment. So I'm going to check equipment. And now we are down at a much more manageable list of 17 results. And we can do some quick investigations of the results by taking a look at their geographic focus and their profiles. So when I'm looking here, one result that pops up to me would be the Classic for Kids Foundation. So I'm going to click on their funder profile to learn a little bit about them. And as you can see in terms of mission, this funder is just about a perfect fit. Their mission is to empower young people to shape positive futures through music, build sustainable stringed instrument music programs, and provide grants for high quality instruments. So since this funder seems like a pretty good fit for our needs, I'm going to click save. So I'm going to save this funder. But I want to do some additional research and look at these other opportunities as well. So another one that looks appealing may be the Crescent Porter Hale Foundation, because they're giving in the San Francisco Bay Area. So that fits my geographic needs. So let's click on their funder profile learn a little bit more about them. And they also look like a pretty good fit. They give in our area, they give to programs that focus on music and arts and education. So they might be a pretty good fit as well. So there, another way I can save them is just here, click save. So they're going to be saved to my dashboard. And let's look through this a little bit more. Maybe I click on the Hobson Lucas Family Foundation because they're giving in the San Francisco Bay Area. And when I see them, they look like a pretty good fit as well because they're giving to arts and culture, music, at-risk youth. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to save them as well. So now we found 3 good leads. So let's imagine, it's the end of the day and we just don't have enough time to actually look through all of the following pages, but I really want to save this search. I can do that by saving the search criteria. So I'm going to enter in a name and I'm just going to call it music search. And I'll click Save Criteria. And now I'll show you where that and those saved grant makers end up. So I'll click back to my dashboard and click on Saved Criteria. So here we see the search I just ran. So I could select Edit to this search and assign the search to a project I created. Or, in the future, I could just click Run, and it's going to bring me back to those search results that I just did. The next step in our dashboard is to look at the saved grant makers. So I'm going to click on Save Grant Makers. And now we see those 3 grant makers that I just saved from my previous search. So what I'm going to do with each one of these grant makers is actually save them to a project. So I'm going to click Edit. I'm going to add them to my instrument library project. And this can be really useful as it's just going to help you stay organized if you're working on multiple projects at the same time. And I'll show you a little bit more about that later. So click on Save for each one of these. And now all 3 are saved to our instrument library project. So now we have these 3 leads. All of these funders seem like pretty good fits, but once again, let's imagine, our community orchestra has a pretty small team. So it's very important that we prioritize our leads effectively. And this is when you'd want to complete your secondary research. Secondary research is seeing just how good of a fit a potential funder is for your program or project. And as part of secondary research, you're going to want to research the grant maker and generate questions to ask to help determine if they are really the best fit for your project. And if you're unfamiliar with secondary research, don't worry. Under our Build Strategy section, if I click on Build Strategy, I can click on Secondary Research. Now here you're going to find tips and articles explaining the type of web research to do, along with how tax forms and the IRS Form 990 fits into secondary research, as well as some advice on how to actually contact funders and ask additional questions. But another really good place to start your secondary research is in our dashboards. If I click on these Save Grant Makers, viewing a funder profile is a great place to start. So let's view the funder profile for Classic for Kids. And let's do a little bit of research for them. So here we see a link to their website. On the right, we can also see their giving total in the last year was $148,000. Here's a link to their IRS Form 990 as well. And for this particular funder, we actually have a link to the grants they've awarded in the past. So I'm going to want to learn a little bit more and click there. So now when I see on their current grants, I can see some of that they've given recently. First thing that strikes me, they've given in the Bay Area before. So this could be a really good fit. But now I also see that, a lot of their grants are in the $1,000 to, $1,500 range. So even though, this funder is a really good fit for our funding needs, they're probably only going to be one of the players in our quest for $80,000. Now, I'd want to do similar investigations for every one of my leads. Then, with this information, I'll be able to accurately prioritize the leads. And we have a great tool to help you prioritize your leads after you've completed your secondary research, and it's called the decision matrix. And this tool will help you decide whether it's a good fit or whether you should add it to your plan, or maybe you should forget about this funder. So in order to complete the decision matrix, I'm going to click on Start Matrix next to that funder. And the decision matrix is this tool that's going to really help us prioritize the leads so that we're focusing on those with the likeliest possibility of success and the least amount of effort. The key is to figure out the potential return on investment of writing a proposal and managing the reward. So with the decision matrix, I'm going to simply go through and answer these questions as accurately as I can. So I begin with the mandatory criteria. Do we meet their eligibility requirements? No. Should be yes. Is the funding consistent with our mission? Yes. If you can answer both or yes to both, then you should proceed with the scored criteria. So first we begin with the funder's priorities. Are we in the funder's geographic giving area? Yep, you assign it from 1 to 3. And I'm going to answer each one of these questions from 1 to 3. But one thing to think about is that if you don't know the answer to one of these questions, that probably means you should do a bit more secondary research before you decide whether or not to apply for this funder. So the next section, is that credibility and readiness. I'll answer one of these. And the last one is the effort and timing. So maybe their application guidelines is really easy. I'm going to answer each one of these questions accordingly. And then we get our final score. So I'll click save. And now the Classics for Kids Foundation, we have a score of 40. So what does that mean? I'm going to click on 40 just to give you a better idea. Here we can see, if you get a score from 0 to 15, they're probably not a great fit. You should probably maybe drop them from your list. 16 to 30, these could be good backup funders. 31 to 45, you should probably get going on these applications. And since Classics for Kids has a 40, I think I'm going to apply for this funder. So I'm going to click here and add them to my plan. And that is the final section of your dashboard for when you actually decide to apply for a specific grant opportunity. So let's dive into one of these plans. I'll click my plan up here. And now we see that the Classic for Kids Foundations plan is there. And their application deadlines are already loaded. And I'd want to edit this plan a little bit more in depth, assign it to that project. I'd assign it to a priority. So maybe they're a high priority. I would give this a status. I have not started yet. Maybe with this funder, I'm going to request $1,500. We see the application deadlines are automatically loaded. Now I can also decide when I want to submit my draft by or complete my draft by, when I want to actually submit my proposal by. And after talking to the funder, I should have a good idea of when I'll actually could get funding or a decision. And I'll click Save there. Now we can see here, all of this information is populated. I can see my status, how much I'm requesting from this funder, when I want to finish my draft by, when I want to submit it by, and when I expect a decision from this grant maker. And you can export the data from this into, a CSV file or to use it in your favorite spreadsheet program. But the goal of this My Plan section is to help you ensure you stay organized on your quest for funding. So now we've gone through one entire project for our instrument library. We began with our project description worksheet. Then we discovered some search terms. We found our funding leads. We investigated those leads using secondary research, and we finally decided to apply for a specific grant for or from Classic for Kids Foundation. So now we're going to do one more search as a review. But before we do so, I do want to just remind you, if you have any questions, go ahead, type those in, and Kevin will either help answer those directly or we'll answer them together at the end of the tour. So let's get started with our second project. So in the second project, let's say you're located in New York, and your mission is to provide immigrant support services, and you predict a budget shortfall for this calendar year of $20,000. So you're looking for general operating support. Now, with this project, I've already completed this project description worksheet. So I click here on my immigrant support services. We can view it. I already did the statement of need, the budget summary, the geographic scope, geographic focus. I also already found some relevant search terms. So in this case, we have social services, an issue, and it's just a general, the social services general tab. But with target populations, we're working with immigrants or refugees, and the type of support we're looking for is general operating support. So now let's jump into our US charitable section and find some funders who could align for this project. So click on Find Grant Makers, US Charitable, and remember, first thing I'll do is start with my geographic scope. So I'm going to click New York. Where's New York there? Right there. So I'll click New York. First, we have 698 results, but I'm also going to add in those national grant makers who give across all states. So now we see there's about 2,000 results, so quite a few. So it's time to add in my areas of interest. So under social services and issues, I'm going to click the general tab. Good. Now we have 598 results. That's a lot. So I need to narrow this down further, and I can do that by adding in the target population. So I'll click on the target population, immigrants and refugees. Still 29 results. That might be okay, but maybe I want to get a little bit specific because I'm looking for general operating support and not all funders will fund with that. So I want to make sure they will. And now I'm down to 12 results, a much more manageable list. So once again, we would look at the different funder profiles. I see the geographic scope, geographic focus of the Altman Foundation aligns with my needs. I would check out their funder profile. I see that they're working with immigrants and they work in a variety of areas and provide general operating support. So I would save them to my dashboard. And then of course, I would maybe look at a couple of additional ones, maybe here, the Fan Fox and Leslie Foundation, they give there. So I'd click save. Maybe the Plowshares Foundation gives there. So I would save all of these funders. And then once again, where you're gonna find this information is in your dashboard. So I'll click on my dashboard, click on saved grant makers. So now, since we're running a couple of different projects, you can start to see that maybe it will get a little disorganized. So I want to make sure I save each one of these grant makers to my project. So I'm going to click Edit for the Altman Foundation, click the instrument, they're the Immigrant Support Services. Click Save for them. And I'll do the same for the Plowshares Foundation, as well as the Van Fox Foundation. And what this is going to allow me to do is just stay a bit organized, because on top in the dashboard with the Save Funders, I can actually filter everything by project. So now I see the two projects I'm working on, my instrument library and my immigrant support services. So I click on Immigrant Support Services and click Apply. Good. And then that shows the 3 different grant makers that I found before. Then, of course, I'd want to do my secondary research again. I would look into each one of these funders, visit their website, look at their IRS Form 990, and use all of that information to complete a decision matrix. And then if this funder is, fits my needs, they're a good funder, I would then add them to my plan. Right. So that's just a little review, once again, from start to finish of how you take this step by step from, defining that project to actually finding a funder. So I hope those searches kind of gave you a general idea of what is possible when you use GrantStation's US Charitable Base. And before we move on to the additional tools, I want to mention that in addition to these US-based grantmaker listings, we also have 3 other unique areas to search through. Our international and Canadian charitable databases. Good. So here I click on International Charitable, and our International Charitable Database contains listings that are beneficial to US-based nonprofits doing work overseas. So if you're working abroad, this could potentially be useful to you. Now, all of these databases are structured in the exact same way as our US databases. The only difference you're really going to see is in the geographic scope. Now, that wraps up the information about GrantStation's databases. But there are a few additional tools that I want to mention because they can be really helpful when developing your grant strategy. The first tool I want to discuss is the benchmarker tool. Now, the benchmarker tool you can find under our public resources tab. So I'm going to click on public resources. Down here, I'll click benchmarker. Now, what this tool can help you answer are the following questions. Are you submitting enough grant requests? How can you increase your number of requests? Are you receiving enough grants? How can you improve your rate? Are you pursuing grants for the right amount? And to complete the benchmarker tool, you simply answer the questions that you find here about your organization, regarding your size, your budget, your mission, and your previous award information. And after you enter in all of this information, you're going to receive a report which provides a breakdown of the survey responses of all the organizations that have your mission focus and are in your budget range. And I'll show you an example report here. So what I'll do is scroll up. It's under dashboard, of course, and I'll click on reports. And there we can see the benchmarker report. So I've already completed one. And if I just click view, you can see there. So this is about an education nonprofit that has a medium budget, and I can start to see how I compare to other organizations that have the same budget and have the same mission focus. And this benchmark report is a great tool to really see what similar organizations are doing when it comes to grant seeking. This can strengthen your ability to secure grant awards by providing a realistic framework for your grant seeking plans and goals. And one last tool that I just want to mention is, and it's available to members of GrantStation, is our R3 tool. This is the Revenue, Review, and Report tool. So I can find this tool under Build Strategy. I'm going to click on R3. Now you can use this tool to help realize the grant's potential of your organization by reviewing where your funding is coming from today, and then also projecting where your funding will come from in the future. And lastly, and most importantly, you can receive recommendations on the next step for exploring additional funding sources. To run an accurate report, you're going to need a copy of your operating budget and about 10 minutes. You simply enter in the information that you see here, and then at the bottom, you're going to run that report. So once again, let's look at an example of one of these reports. So under my dashboard, I'll click under reports, and here I see the R3 report. I'm going to click view. So what you can see here is that the R3 report provides some great visualizations to help you keep track of where you are and where you want to be. And these visualizations can be useful if you need to discuss grant strategy with your board or your executive director. And at the bottom, you also receive some recommendations that are tailored to you for your current portfolio. And the benchmarker tool and the R3 tool can be used together to help your organization set grant program objectives that define how much to pursue and from which type of grant maker. So that wraps up the essential features of GrantStation. So now we are going to, let's turn my camera back on so you can see me again. We're going to take a moment, make sure that you have the opportunity to get your questions answered. But before we do so, Kevin, were there any unresolved questions in the chat or anything you think we should cover more in depth with the group before we open it up to general questions?
Not really. Didn't have a whole lot of questions rolling in. One thing I always like to go over people multiple times with David. Can you go back over the and or idea
Yes.
of the search logic there? Because that's
Yes.
what always trips people up.
Hmm.
And as
Absolutely.
David's going to that page, I'll give an example. I had a member come to me a couple years ago and they were really upset. They could not. They're like, there are no grants to help me on GrantStation. I used 12 search terms, and I came up with nothing. And their idea was, if you put in 12 search terms, they were hoping it would bring up something from any of those search terms. But if you put those 12 search terms in, you're only going to get funders that fund exactly all 12 of those. So, for example, if I put in opera and social justice, I'm only going to find funders who fund both of those, and it's probably not going to happen. So,
Hmm.
could you walk us through an example here, David, by
Yep,
showing us like the numbers of the results so we can?
absolutely. So let's start again with, you know, California, and our geographic is an and, right, Kevin? That would be a good way to describe it. So, if we have California and national funders, that's going to kind of open up everything for us. But
Okay, yep.
afterwards, it's going to be that or search. Oh, what did I do there?
Got backwards, David. So,
Oh, I got it backwards.
yep.
Sorry.
Geography is going to be or. So, I'm giving as many options as possible. So, if I
Mhm.
click national and California, it's going to bring up funders that fund in either the entire US or California. And if I put in California and say Oregon, because we're on the border, I'll bring up funders who are in California or Oregon. So as I add more geography, I'm getting more results. But then my search terms are going to be inclusive. So it's only going to be funders that match all of these other terms. So now, as David added geography, my search got bigger. But as I add these other search terms, my numbers are going to go smaller. And then,
Yes.
hand in hand with that, Barbara had a great question. Is it best to only search within your state? And a lot of people think that, but if you do that, you're missing out on a ton of opportunities. So if I only search in California, I'm missing out on tons of funders who would fund in my mission area, would give money across the United States. Now, some of these funders in California may be more focused, they may fund in your neighborhood, but a lot of these national funders actually have tons of money to give. So you do not want to leave those out of the equation.
Yes, exactly. So I think we always recommend to, cast that search net as wide as possible, and then you can get specific. So then what Kevin was talking about, if we get multiple search terms in, so if I click, for example, if I'm looking at education programs and maybe it's, an English as a second language program, and I click bicultural, that's going to give me the 53 results in California and the US that fund that specific search term. But if I add in a second one, so maybe it's if I click environment, oh, sorry, environment and animals, and I'm looking for, talking about recycling. So for some reason, I want to talk about recycling with my ESL class. And now I'm just getting really, really specific. There's only going to be one result in all of the US and California that gives. So generally, one area of interest is going to kind of be a good place to start. And then would you recommend adding in those other terms just to narrow things down, Kevin?
Yep, exactly. So what was happening there, as you guys saw, bicultural, bilingual, and recycling is a very weird match. So it's only bringing up funders that list both of those. You're probably wondering what sort of organization does that? It was a community foundation that has numerous funds, so it's probably different programs. But as David's saying here, 53, too much to go through. Add search terms till you find a reasonable amount. If your number gets too low, subtract some of those search terms as well.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and you can kind of get down to that manageable list where you can combine, the geographic scope and geographic focus, just to kind of understand, whether or not you should really investigate that funder. Um, and
Okay,
then I
got some
think
more
Nelson
good
had a slightly
questions.
more specific question. Is there funding for consulting in Minnesota?
Do you want to tackle this, David, or should
Uh,
I?
I think you'd probably be the better person to tackle something a bit more specific there, Kevin.
Okay, yep. So, if David, can you scroll down to our search terms?
Yep.
So if you're looking for consulting, under our types of support, we do have a listing, so you can search for funders that are specifically applying or offering technical assistance. So if you're looking for consulting help, this technical assistance, be those type, there it goes. It has including consulting on staff development. It's right there in the description. Um, so consulting is going to be that technical assistance search terms. If you're looking about like expanding your organization to offer consulting, you'd probably look under capacity building.
Mhm.
So if you have any further questions about that, feel free to email me, but your search term there is going to be, Minnesota and technical assistance. Up at the top, David, do we go over how to look for, what if I know the name of the grant maker, but I want to just go straight to their GrantStation profile? How can we do that?
I don't think we went over that. So we click on Find Grant Makers, correct?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And then the funder profiles are down here. And the name of the funder profile, correct?
Yep.
So
Let's
if I was doing
see.
classic, the one I was looking at before, if I did classic
Yep.
for kids, that's going to pop them right up.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think that's the only
Okay.
one I remember at the moment. Mm-hmm.
We do have someone asking next question. They want us to run a specific search. So I think this would be good. So they have a grant program, vision impaired and the arts.
Okay.
Let's see how well you know the search terms. I shared the search terms page earlier, including those types of support. There are 233 of them. So there's usually going to be a pretty good fit for a lot of these. So let's see what David can find us for vision impaired and the arts.
I believe it's under health and wellness, yes?
You are correct.
Yeah, this is a test. And then we have hearing and vision issues.
Good
So we
memory,
have
David.
110 results there. Good. So that would be probably one of the best ones to start with. And then of course, you're gonna narrow it down, according to your geographic scope, both national grant makers and whoever's giving in your state. And then the type of support that you are looking for as well.
Yep, exactly. And if you're wondering, like, vision impaired, when David went to our search terms page, that's where you can do your searching to type in a couple words to try to figure out if there's a category who that fits your needs.
Mm-hmm.
So
We do have one more, Kevin, but this one's pretty specific, where this might be more up your alley, about burial assistance for mothers whose child dies from sudden infant death syndrome in Florida.
yes. So this may seem, I don't know if this is actually a search they're interested in or if they're just testing us here.
They're testing you? Well,
But
yeah, it's good to have you here because I think they would have stumped me with that one.
But to just give you an idea, yeah, of the breadth of our search terms here, let's see if I can remember where this is. I think if we go down to social services for our types of support,
Okay. Or
I
types of
believe,
support.
or
Mm-hmm.
sorry, social services, not types of support. Sorry,
Yep.
I misspoke.
Yep.
I believe we have a death and bereavement category there. Yes, we
Bereavement
do.
programs and
Yep.
end of life issues.
So the death and bereavement would give you links to that potential burial assistance. And then if we're talking specifically about sudden infant death syndrome, under our health category, we do list certain specific diseases like heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's, but we also have a specific category, a broader category that's just going to be disease general.
Yep.
So if we don't list your specific disease such as SIDS, then we click that disease general. And from the development standpoint here, we're constantly adding new click boxes. So if we get to a point where usually it's about, if there's 20 to 30 funders out there targeting a specific issue, we'll add that click box. So if there comes a point where suddenly more funders are funding SIDS programs, once that hits that tipping point of about 20 to 25, then we'll add that as a new click box. So in the future, one of the words we've seen recently are intergenerational programs. So a
Hmm.
lot of funders are running programs where they're linking up younger kids, like with you know like retired folks, and for some reason that's a new cresting wave of funding that's coming out there. So in the very near future, I think next month or the month after, that's going to be a new search term that you can use. So we kind of keep track of what's happening out there in the grant seeking world, and as new areas of focus come into place, we add those. One that a lot of people are interested in, like our health equity, that
Hmm.
really came into focus in the last couple of years. A lot of funders looking for health equity funding. So we added that about a year ago. So we're constantly updating these terms to make sure that they're as comprehensive as possible. So, and if you're having trouble with a search, always reach out to us and we can maybe help direct you in the right direction to find, because we don't want you guys missing out on money, leaving any money on the table.
Absolutely. Yes, you can always contact us and we're happy to help. I see one last question. Gene asked about construction of building or renovations. I think I know the answer to that one, actually. That would just be that's capital building or capital campaigns and building funds. So that would probably be the type of support you are looking for. Correct, Kevin?
Yep, you're spot on, David.
Spot on. Perfect. All right, good. So yeah, as we said, you can email us directly if you have any additional questions. But with that, I think I will pass it back to you, Aretha, to take us out.
That was so amazing. I learned so much, and I've been a member of GrantStation for
Mhm.
a long time. And I was like, oh, oh, oh. And I'm sure Gene and other people who are members of GrantStation probably was doing the same thing because you just gave us so much. So David and Kevin, both, thank you so much. Now I know, yeah, lots of claps in the chat room.
Very happy.
Gene, what one you? I know you just got some grant. Did you learn something new watching this webinar?
I did because I've been going about it the back door. So he helped me to learn how to go the front door. And I
Yeah.
was really excited tonight. I've had a couple that I've applied for on here. So I'm waiting a response. But tonight it streamlined it for me. But I've been going through it the long way. So
Yeah.
this is I think this is very helpful to me. I know now how to do the shortcut. Okay.
Yeah. I'm
Thank
so happy. I'm so glad you came. And look, Jean, I want to give you a hand clap. Jean got $1,000 grant, a $55,000 grant, and just moved into a new building. And yes, let's clap for Jean. I
Nice.
mean,
thank you.
Congratulations, Gene.
yes,
Thank
she
you.
is putting in the work, and she is here at Grant Writing School every time we open the doors on Zoom.
Thank
So
you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you so much. Yeah, lots of claps in the
I
chat
have
room.
to say this grant station has been much more user friendly and a place to go. I think prior to this, Aretha, I found it very frustrating to know where to look for grants, but this takes you directly and I'm finding them. So I thank God for GrantStation. It's been wonderful.
Oh,
Mhm.
mhm.
I agree. I agree. Yes, yes, yes. So now I know you guys are probably wondering, hold on one second. You're probably wondering how much is all of this? Because I used to be members of other funders where you seek funding. I'm not going to name any names, and I was paying like $200 a month. It was worth it for me because at the time I was a grant writer, so I needed to be in the know. I need to have my hands on the pulse. I was a grant reviewer, so I needed to know. And then I found GrantStation, and I'm like, no way, no, 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 no. But I signed up, and I was like, oh my goodness, I couldn't believe how inexpensive it was. Um, Again, compared to $200 that I was paying a month, this is $169 a year. And I know you're like, oh, that's good. But guess what? I got something even better. GrantStation and Grant Writing School has partnered together, and we're going to offer you this for $95 a year. So I'm going to put the link in the chat room. Yes, I'm going to put the link in the chat room. If you don't purchase it tonight, you can always go back to Grant Writing School. It'll be there. And I am so grateful for this partnership. The previous CEO, she just like, you need to do this. So I was like, really? And I was so glad that she said that. So I want you guys to stay encouraged. I know grant writing is not fun. It's a lot of work. And even though he showed us shortcuts tonight, you're still like, oh my God, it's so much work. And so, yes, you need to hire a virtual assistant or a grant writer, but you still need to be ready for the grants. So that is the purpose of you coming to the classes that we have at Grant Writing School. And now you got other tools at GrantStation, many tools at GrantStation, excuse me, Grant Writing Station. I'm just kidding. But you have many tools at GrantStation that you can use. And I just want to thank you all for being here. I told you I wouldn't keep you past your time. Look, 7:56, we did it. Any last words that you want to give to David and Kevin? I just want to say thank you, and thank you all for being here. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much,
I say thank
Yes.
you also.
David.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, lots of thank yous in the chat room. Somebody said it is worth it. Yes, Nelson said it is worth it. It is worth it,
It is
and
worth
so
it.
much
Yes, it
more.
is.
Yes, and now that you have the tools, I'm going to email you the replay of this so you can watch it over and over, gain some more insights. And you guys have a great day. I always tell all my nonprofit community, as you're going around taking care of everybody else, please take time to take care of yourself. You guys have a great night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Bye.